Welcome back to Be the Good with Kate, the show that inspires each of us to see how we have the power to make a difference all around us. Each episode highlights an individual doing good in the world while following their passions, good for their own souls and for others. I get so excited about sharing each and every episode of Be the Good with you, and I hope you enjoy these people and stories. If you're new here, welcome, and if you are returning, thank you so much for your support. I'm so glad you found Be the Good with Kate and would love to hear from you. If you're finding value in these episodes, I invite you to share with someone who could also use this dose of good news, or tag me on social with your favorite quote from the episode. Every share, subscriber, review, and comment helps me to share these guests' wonderful work to more people. Thank you for your help in this. Now, on to this week's episode. Let's spread a little more goodness in the world. Today's guest I'm excited to share with you is Roger Pollard, and he's a high school teacher and head football coach, as well as being a former college athlete. And he is in Florida today talking to us. He's also an author, and his whole focus is on the motive in motivation, which I love. And I want to read you a quick quote from his bio that I was really drawn to. From my experience in the classroom, weight room, and football field, the difference between people's actions and words has always intrigued me. And I couldn't agree more, Roger. So thanks so much for being here. And I can't wait to talk more about all this.
Thank you, Kate. Thank you. I really appreciate you having me on.
Well, please tell everybody who you are and what you do in your own words.
In my own words, that's really what I am trying to delve at the bottom of. Who are you as an individual? I think a lot of people, when you say who are you, we start going with the logical mind. We say, I got my diploma here, I got my degree here, I got my master's here. And I think we all know that who we are can't come down to a list of attributes. Who we are is the best thing is a story, and so I'm really trying to attack and address that for individuals. And really I wrote the book, or I've been writing and moving into being an author for my kids, because I feel like we as a society are moving a little bit too much into the logical mind and not enough into the story mind, and then I say, what is a story? A story is the ideas expressed in a chronological order. So, with that, I'm the combination of ideas that thinks that we should always aim up and always aim for who we could and will be. But I guess the real story is I'm a high school teacher, former football head coach, and now I teach and just try and be a better father, husband, and son on a daily basis. And that's my drive, that's my goal. And I try and use courage, love, and discipline as my daily set of virtues to express that into the world. And what I tell people is, if you were going to go somewhere, when you plug your GPS in a phone, if I want to go to McDonald's, I plug into McDonald's, but the first thing I have to do, they have to know where I am. So, my first book is like, who are you? And, everybody had two very important, or the most important experiences in their life was that they were born and that someone was there to catch them. So, from that, who are you from a psychological level, using the big 5 personality traits and really delving into that and giving people information about, hey, am I introverted? Does that, like, people say, oh, you're not talkative, or like if you're okay, which I am more of an introvert than an extrovert, having a home base, an understanding of what we know from a psychological perspective of the individual, from conscientiousness, agreeableness, neuroticism, openness, and extroversion, you kind of get a home base now. And then from a sociological perspective, you're your family, your faith, your friends, school, and then the big one, and we all know it's taken over really, is mass media and technology. So, that first book is giving people a grounding to where they are. And now my second book, which I released my books on my birthday, is Courage, Love, and Discipline. We need courage to move into the future, accepting both the good and the bad. We need love. Love is, I define it as a sacrifice for your future self. And then discipline, use the lessons and blessings that you can extract from your experiences from the past to move forward. And so those are my two. And And then my third book is going into the physiological reasons why it's courage, love, and discipline.
Love what you
Yeah.
said about love as a sacrifice for your future self. I think that is a
Mhm.
really, really neat way to look at it. I love that. Do you have sources that you go to besides your own life that are your go-tos in terms of looking at all the psychology, sociology, and all of this?
100%. I'm studying a lot of peer-reviewed data. YouTube is my best friend, and I try, like, whether it's Richard Dawkins or Peterson or Vervaeke or McGilchrist, or and really just get. I like to trace truth through different disciplines. Become disciplined in the disciplines, and that's one of the hard things of our age is we've always been information foragers, and now information is in such abundance where you can turn on Channel 1 and they'll say, they'll put a sermon on God and you'll believe it, and then they go Channel 2, there's a sermon on the devil and you'll believe it, and then Channel 3, there's a sermon on nothing and you'll believe that. So there's just a wealth of information, and the big thing for me, and what I'm really telling my students, is everything goes under these four things. First is your attention. If you don't pay attention to it, you can't get it. And then that's traced into how the human brain works. Everything I experience, all of the sounds that you're having outside, all of that goes into your registry. In order to turn things from your registry to your short-term memory, the only thing you have to do is pay attention. And now it goes into your short-term memory, and that lasts from 7 to 15 seconds. And then in order to move it into the long-term memory, which, we're not 100% sure how, but connecting it with an idea that you already have. So it's, attention. From where I put my attention, I get my information. The information that I meditate on, I get knowledge. And when you put action behind knowledge, that's what turns into wisdom. So just trying to get more people aware of just how does your body work in terms of a motivational aspect, and the information's there, and go after it. But that's been difficult. That's why I say book 3 is a monster. I've been working on it now for a year and a half.
Wow. Well, that awareness is so huge, right? It is amazing to observe, because I also love to observe people and see how they interact. And it's mind blowing sometimes, right? How people can just be so unaware of whether it's their physical body or their emotional state or even what the world around them. So I love how you've been diving into just all of it for so many years. Yeah. And tell me more. Oh, go ahead, please.
Well, I was saying, I think the best way to define the human being is a culmination of ideas. And I just had this thought this morning, and I said, ideas are immortal. Ideas are what lasts forever. And what I think is difficult in our time with people who are unwilling to look at things from multiple perspectives. If you don't see a thing from multiple perspectives, right? There can be a shape, but at this vantage point, you see a hexagon. But if I turn it like this, you'll just see a line. So I think, and I just see it so much, especially because people think they're their name, or people think that they're their titles. You are a story. A story is a bunch of ideas. Ideas moved into action are beliefs. And I tell my high school students, you have a girlfriend or boyfriend and they tell you that they love you. They love you. I love you. Oh my God, I love you so much. They're crying, but right next to you, they're kissing somebody in their face. You don't believe what they say. You believe what they do. And I think with technology, there are so many more words that we're available to. It's hard as natural human beings to be to pay credence to what people say and believe what they say. We've got to really start watching other people, and most importantly, I think we've got to start watching ourselves, because we're lying. There's too many people lying, and I can't get mad at you for lying to me when you're lying to yourself. So I wanted to put that information out there for people, and like I said, it's for my kids. When my kids graduate middle school, the first book is going to be, that's summer reading. I want them to really have like My daughter is extroverted, from the time that she was 6 months old. If we were talking right here in person, she would crawl up and she would sit on my lap and she would just go back and forth looking at us, where my son is more of an introvert. He'd go off. We nicknamed him Destructo. He'd just go in and try and tear things apart and figure out how they work and put them back together. So, sorry, I'm sorry where I was going with that. I warned you.
I love it. I love it. No, how old are your two right now?
Right now, they're 8. They're starting 2nd grade, and the most important thing I'm trying to get them on, and telling my high school students, we're living in the best time to be a human being, but we see negative ideation between suicide and self-harm and depression in our teenagers. It's the best time to be a human being, but there's something wrong, and they're screaming, they're yelling at us, and so I'm letting them know, one, if you were to judge a single point on a line, you don't know what direction that line is going. So stop judging ourselves on single moments. And then 2, who's more important, who you are, who you were, or who you become. And it's always who you become. We've got to start identifying with the thing that is willing to look into the dangers of the future and act, for better lack of a word, courageously. And I don't know how much I'm seeing of that today.
I feel like already in this conversation, I could have a whole chapter filled with just quotes that are like quotes to live by that have come out of your mouth. I love it. So Roger, tell me more about your path to today. You know, going way back, played football, you went into teaching, all of that.
I, high school student, I was an IB student. I was an IB athlete. I played football, basketball, and track. My senior year, my parents are from the Caribbean. Or really, I am, Caribbean heritage. My mom's from Trinidad, my dad's from Guyana. And going into my senior year, my parents didn't really know about college, and they're like, look, we don't have any money to send you to college. We didn't know it was going to be this expensive. So really just, I was already busting my butt, but really sent it into overdrive. I ended up getting a full athletic scholarship to North Carolina State. Played football there during the Phillip Rivers years when he was there, Mario Williams, all these guys who went to the NFL, and ended up returning and coming back to coach. And really that story was me. I worked harder academically and athletically in high school than I did in college, and kind of fell into a trap. I was an electrical engineering major, started playing a little bit better, and people were talking about NFL, and I had 2 semesters there that were terrible, and graduated by the skin of my teeth, and ended up being a teacher and a coach. And it was just like I graduated high school with a 4.7, and then graduated college with a 2.0. So I kind of tried to use those lessons as, hey, look, I know how to do it the right way, and I know how to do it the wrong way. And then went back and got my master's while I was being a grad assistant at Middle Tennessee State, and graduated with a 3.8. And it can be done. There, success leaves clues, just like losing leaves clues. And I think we're always focusing on the winners and what the winners do, but I think a little bit of that is I started really focusing on what losers do and what the people who don't hoist the trophy do. And that's when I came back after being a graduate assistant and wanted to be a head coach. I wanted to build my own program. So, and it was at my alma mater. So being able to, I think that the greatest blessings in life are being able to see things and live things from multiple perspectives. Just life-wise, forget about football for a second. To be a kid, to be a teenager, to be an adult, to be a father, to be a grandfather, and then hopefully to be the great grandfather. And that's the scope, to live all of those scopes, and to be a player at Coral Gables, now as a teacher, now as the head coach of a program in which I played football in. And then I had a depressive episode about 2 years ago. And it really just made me step back, right? I was taking more of that logical concept behind behind what I was doing and in my life, and have taken this step and said, you know what, I really want to not only, I think my time with football has passed, but I say coaches are teachers of sports, right? To be a good coach, you have to be a good teacher. So you can call me coach, you can call me Mr. Pollard, you can call me, whatever you want. But when you walk into my class, you're going to be, we're going to go on a journey. And I try and, because of all this, I try and go back to the core of what education was. It wasn't pass this test or end of course here. It was dialogos, the logos, the interaction, right? This conversation that we're having now, it's a back and forth, it's a dance, it's the creative endeavor that I feel you can look at everything that we are drawn towards as human beings. It's about the creative endeavor. And I think that comes all the way down to the person, from the, to be rational comes from radio, comes from the proper proportion. So how proper proportioned are we within our different personality vectors, whether you're bad, whether you're sad, whether you're in love, whether you're at work, to that from 1 to 2, from your mate, how are you guys transforming? Did you wash the dishes? Did you pick up that stuff from the grocery store? And the community, which is really the original family. So, getting into that and just really feeding my intellect. I like random facts, random quotes, as you can see, random ways and ideas to help build and manifest a better me. I like, why not aim at everything that you can be? Why not? Not through words, but through action. I need to work out. All right, do you? Do you? Okay, will you? So we like to lie to ourselves. And then last one is, if I ask anybody who's listening to this podcast, what is the Pledge of Allegiance? Everybody know, I pledge allegiance to the flag to the United States, and everybody knows it. And I say it's really crazy. If I ask you, what's the pledge to yourself? How do you pledge to yourself? What are the words to the pledge that you will say? Because the United States of America is great. They say in school, we should say the Pledge of Allegiance every morning. Well, what's the pledge that you say to yourself, for you, by you, and to you? And if you don't have one, if that makes sense to you, if you believe what I just said, make one right now. Because what ideas are holding you captive? You don't have ideas. Ideas have you. So if you really believe that there is an idea, there is an ethic, there is a virtue that you should embody when you hear something, cut the idea that you have. You might have to lose an arm, but the phoenix, right? The phoenix, in order to live forever, has to burn itself away in order to be reborn. And it's the same concept with us as human beings. You hear something, analyze it, break it down, cut it up, and then integrate that within yourself, not just through words, but through action. And that's the journey that I'm on right now. And I think that's a lifelong journey.
Well, I hope that everybody hits pause right about now and thinks about that, right? Because I just love how you said that pledge to yourself. That's a really, really powerful thought. And the other aspect you mentioned about the creative entity being like at the core, but I also noticed it always involved the relationships and the connections, right? With other people, with yourself through life. And so it's never just us, right? By ourselves. There's always, we need to find those people. Have you had people that have had those profound effects on you throughout your life?
One, like I said, the most important thing was that you were born, but we know that I think babies who do not get physical touch, we learned this, I forgot what war it was, we learned this in the USSR when they were trying to get a whole bunch of babies. They put babies, they fed them, they gave them warmth, and they deprived them of human touch. All of those babies died. So the most important thing was that when you were born, but then the second thing, and I'm saying two, but it's not really two, it's one. But we exist in duality. In order to blink, I have to close my eyes and open my eyes. In order to breathe, I have to breathe in and breathe out. So I think the way we miss the mark as human beings is we have to diminish the true value and worth of what things are. And we diminish that relationship between, we're not one person. So we are all relationships. That's it. And relationships with everything is reciprocal. I have a relationship with you right now, and how we're talking. We have a relationship with the chair. We have a relationship. Like right now, you might feel like you're outside, but like I tell my students, how many things, like how many people were involved in just the stuff that's on your body, right? Where did these pants come from? Who are the ones who made it? Who are the ones who shipped it? Who are the ones who made the sidewalk? Who are the ones who made everything that's around you? And that's, you know, I hate to get onto the spiritual, but who's the one who made that tree right there in back of you? You know, so having an attitude of gratitude instead of being, you either take things for granted or you're grateful for it. What are the things that we are not really grateful for simply because you diminish the true worth and value of it? And that's all relationships. You even if you're driving alone, well, who made that car? How did you get that car? Who made that stoplight? Who man? And I guess it may seem trivial, but if you just turn on the news, it's not trivial. I think it's making a really big difference, and we've got to foster those three things: relationships, our relationship with just people, our relationship with the divine, and our relationship with nature. And so my high school football coaches, of course, my parents, my wife, you know, it's just everybody that you're surrounded by, and really, 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 really delving into being present with those relationships, because we're all headed under the earth. You know, we're all headed. We're all counting down, and I think we kind of diminish the true worth and value of the present. Right? Oh, I'm talking to you, or am I talking about right now, or right now? You know, there is no present. You know, I think we kind of use that word and we don't really think about it. We live in the past and we aim at the future. And any time that we're in the present, naturally, it's usually because we're extremely excited or extremely, you know, in a rough and tough time. But move on, right? We always have something, because I don't care what you're going through. Everybody who is in the dirt right now, they would trade places with you in a hot second, because you have something that they don't have. They have the present. They're not moving. They are there. We don't have it. We think we do. Aim.
And the attitude of gratitude. I heard, I think it was an Oprah quote at some point that don't quote me on this quote, but I think it was her that said, I wake up every day and I say thank you. That's the first thing I do, is I just wake up and say thank you. And that's really stuck with me. And it really the more and more studies are coming out, as they always have, but I think people are finally really focusing on these things of, we are lifted. We do feel better when we are practicing gratitude. And that doesn't have to be anything complicated, right? I think people get so in our head of, oh my gosh, I have to add it to my to-do list to say thank you for things. But really, it's walking down the street, and instead of listening to or talking on the phone, it's, you know, thank you for this tree. Thank you for this air. Thank you for being able to walk, or anything. And I think that is just, it's so hugely important and so simple, yet becomes complicated sometimes unnecessarily.
The things that are simple to do are simple not to do. And this is book 3 information. Just, we know from a physiological level, gratitude actually releases oxytocin in the love hormone, you know, whatever. And so just, you know, first thing when you wake up, not only just saying thank you, but being thankful about a time in which someone was thanking you for something, not when you were thanking something, not like that consumer, oh yeah, thank you, I did this for you, or you did this for me. The thank you where you went out of your way and you did something, and really honing in on those experiences, that will immediately shoot that happy hormone into your that loving hormone. Happy hormone would be dopamine.
That's so true. I mean, I think about the times that I'm just like so tired, so worn out or stressed, but I quote unquote have to show up to do a volunteer event, or I happen upon someone who needs help and I do this one tiny thing for that person. And all of a sudden it is that rush of that. You feel so much better.
It's gone. You know, you're like, oh, I don't want to do it. But then when you're there, you really, that's why you signed up for it, you know? So I think a little bit too much. I feel like we're focusing a little bit too much on feelings and not on facts because, well, one, you want to be happy. Dopamine is released when you see yourself moving towards a goal. That's what, so if you have a goal, and depending on where you are, your goal might change. So, if you're really in a hard time, if you just make the goal of drinking my coffee, washing it and putting away and, stacking it up a little bit, just that releases dopamine in your system. And dopamine isn't about getting things. Dopamine is about pursuing them. So, have a list of goals and chase them, right? We aim at the future. We live in the past. We aim at the future and aim, move, go, rise.
Yeah. So going with all of this about the good feelings, and I love asking about good news moments. What have been some times throughout your life that, whether it's someone who's helped you or someone you've helped, someone who's influenced your book or your teaching, any of those stories you'd like to share?
Having students come up to me and say, this changed my life. Having some of my kids in my class this year who I can noticeably see a difference in what they're doing and having. I had a kid just today, like, man, I did my homework, excited. And, I want to tap him, like, hey, look, good job. But now, hey, look, I don't want you to get excited only about the things that you are supposed to do, but it's a step in the right direction. And like any sports fan knows, we can't explain it, but momentum. How does momentum start? You just keep on trying, and then all of a sudden you can't miss. You hit Uwe, where you're trying not to try, you're just on fire. So from the positive reviews from the book, from the students, just as a football coach, I've had different parents at different times and say, Coach, we were saying this, but for whatever reason, when it comes from someone else, and you know how teenagers are, mom and dad are the devil. They only want to listen to other people. And, I've had parents come in crying, thanking me. And I mean, what are we here for if it's not for that? Like the Egyptians proved it. You can't go, the money ain't going to go with you, so how about we start assimilating and integrating positive information into our being and understanding that believe, like my shirt, believe isn't what you say, be life. It's what you do. And being the positive change in the eternal battle of what I think is good and evil, and the first thing we all have got to do is stop lying to ourselves. That's it. Stop lying to yourselves. And there are no great achievements without great obstacles. And starting to take more of that proactive attitude about shaping and building and cultivating a great you. And now through you, as you rise, it's the cross, it's the church. Everybody says, and which it is, it's about Jesus and suffering, but the church is the cross, where it hits the floor, reality to everything that you could be. And wherever you are on that good or great is where that is. And now I touch out. So the higher I become and I ascend we're a network people. We're nodal. I've never met you before, but now all of a sudden, that's just how it works. The more I can raise myself, the better I can be aligned with my ideal. What is your ideal for you? We'll never get there. It is a judge, but chase that thing like no tomorrow. And as you ascend in that, the different people that you're connected to, they also experience that joy and happiness. And I don't see a greater aim than that. So do ideas go on with you in the next life? I don't know, but there's a chance, because I know ideas are immortal. So let's start being more purposeful about the ideas that we, through action, give life to.
Well, and if nothing else, that's how it'll keep them all alive, right? Putting the ideas out into the world through our actions, through our words, through anything we're doing, for sure.
Yes. Yes.
Now, with the high school students, you've had, I'm sure, so many varying personalities that you've dealt with, but I know you're a lover of quotes and you've given so many amazing quotes already. Is there a number one line you find yourself repeating over and over and over again to your high school students?
100%. And
Yeah, what is it?
it's vi veri veni versum vici, which is Latin for through the power of truth, I, while living, have conquered the universe. And what I'm telling them this year and even last year is just through my high school and teaching career and coaching career, the amount of kids that are lying is it's astounding. And I let them know, like, it's not that you're lying to me. It doesn't matter. I don't care. The amount of people that I see that are lying to themselves, it's really, really concerning to me. And the way I termed it for them last week was, everything that we stand on is true. Not only true, I guess it's true, because if the house that I'm in was built on lies, it would collapse. But I think we've become so accustomed to standing on top of the truth that it's from the top, from on top of truth, that we are just spitting venomous lies. And I get it. Hey, you're trying to do this, or money. All right, I get that. But the more you do something, when the first time when you learn something with your brain, this goes into the bihemispheric factors of the brain. You first time you do it, your whole brain fires, and then it's only the left side that fires, and then it starts moving all the way back, and it becomes automatic. You just go. You don't even think about it. You don't even know, and that's stroke victims. That's a too long of a story. But either way, stop lying. Stop, and most importantly, stop lying to yourself. That's the key. And we've got to stop it. We do, but people can't see past the questions. People can't see the answers to the questions they're not willing to ask themselves. So it's vi vici veni versum, vi veri veni versum vici, through the power of truth, I, while living, have conquered the universe. And then stop lying to yourself. Stop.
What's the biggest culprit you see people with lying to themselves? Is it about their abilities? Is it about showing up? What is it? Or what are they? Maybe I should say.
I can't say that I don't think there's a limitation to it. So I had a girl just like 2 weeks ago, but we talked about it today, and she was sleeping in class. I said, hey, pick your head up. If this was McDonald's and it was 3 o'clock in the morning, they work 24 hours, are you going to have to go to sleep? No. So this is a job. I'm coming in here. I'm going to play my role as teacher. You're going to play your role as student. And that's the agreement. Life is relationships, and this is the relationship that you're in. I'm not sleeping. Okay, I guess I'm picking on you. Asleep again. I sit there, I'm watching a student write their homework out, right there in front of me, and then try to turn around and say, look, I just watched you do this. What do you mean? I didn't do that. So lies, no, they don't know. Like, hell, think about it like this. The belief system that had Nazis killing people, shooting pregnant women in the back of the head, those men or those people they believed it, but they knew it was wrong inside their hearts. So if we can't look at history and see that what we believe can manifest the deepest and most horrific evils, if you're not willing to ask yourself that question, and that all comes back down to, no, I'm not my race, I'm not my sex, I'm not any one thing. I am the most divine, unique individual, and there's no way to put me in a group. You want to know me, then you have to know me. You have to develop a relationship. Are there tendencies in certain directions? Yeah, of course, there's stereotypes and all that, and there's a little bit of truth in stereotype, but and we all know, like, nobody is any set of labels, and that's what brought me to we're stories. Amazon just spent $1 billion on Rings of Power. Why is that? Why do we go and look at, what do we do when we go to football games? What happens when we're in bars with other people taking part in that creative endeavor? Because we got to stop diminishing the worth of the human being down into you're this or you're that.
Just going with that concept and your students, have you found that one of the ways to help them move forward from these, not doing the work and sleeping in class, is it finding ways to get them to connect with their peers or with you, or has there been something else you've been discovering?
No, it is exactly that. As a history teacher, I tell stories. So I go back and I'm always plucking and pulling, and then I change it up. So on certain days, certain days are a little bit more boring because they just want me to lecture all the time, but you guys have got to do the work too. But I tell them, and I said lecture, but I tell them I don't ever want to lecture in here. I always want to have a conversation, because a conversation is moving and growing and flowing. It's always that creative dance. We think that language started first. Language didn't start first. Language derived out of music. Well, how do you define music? I can't give you one note. Like, I can't put music on a paper and it doesn't mean anything to you. Music is both the note and the silence in between. I think it's something that has to do with the golden ratio. I'm not sure, but it's the story. It's the telling of stories and communication with them, where I've let them know, hey, look, you have 5 options. You're going to be a college student. And I think we've failed miserably in telling all of our kids that college. That's one option. Right. College, trade school, right? Go and learn how to do something. Our society is made up of how many different fields, right? That have nothing to do. And so college, trade school, military, then you're just going to work, or you're going to be on your mom's couch. And where does that lead? So those are your 5 options. That's where you're going. What's the point of education? The point of education is for you to learn how you learn. How do I learn at math? How do I learn at science? And through the different disciplines, you become disciplined. So I'm always trying to explain what the landscape is, so they have a better understanding of what's going on. And I don't care about I want you to be involved, because as you're involved, if whatever job you work, they didn't ask you what you got, what grade did you get in history class, your 9th grade. It's what that history class turned you into. That's the most important. And that story cannot be told on a sheet of paper. So that's what, through that, I'm always stressing and moving that. And then it's not what you do, it's how you do. I go in and I bust my ass every day and really being aligned with where I am, and what I'm doing. And if there's anything that's more important than who we are as an individual, it's the future. And so that's the way I go into my job. That's the way I'm going into, like, just this. Someone might be listening to this and like, wow, shaking their head. And I'm not trying to change everybody's life. We can't do that. But if there's one person, just one person that makes a difference and it speaks to their heart, then it was definitely worth it. And that's what our life, that's what our existence is made out of.
I love it. So I have one more question for you, Roger, and then I'll let you go.
No, you're fine.
If somebody came to you, whether it was one of your students or just anyone, and said, I want to make a difference, like, I love what you're doing, I want to make a difference, I don't know where to start, I don't know how to start, is there any advice you'd give them?
I think I want to make a difference. I think the number one thing that we always talk about when we start talking about making a difference is what we see, right? if you want to make a difference, it goes back to that cross. Make a difference in you and raise yourself. And as you raise yourself, the different people that you're in relationships with will raise as well. When maybe your friends, one of your friends may be down and out on a random day, but because you've raised your level in terms of the ideas that you've integrated and assimilated into your being, like it's who you really are, not through words but through action, and you can turn the tide. I had a kid yesterday who was talking about dropping out, and he was, he's skipping my class, and I just happened to be walking around, and we had a 20-minute talk, and oh no, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do this. Now, if I didn't spend thousands of hours listening to how the brain works, or listening to whatever it was and building myself, maybe in that situation, I would have lacked the ability to have those words. So you want to make a difference, the first difference you have to make is in you. And that's in being deliberate and intentional in growing your belief system, and that's hard. That's through conversation, because everything is open to our perception. Where our lives are, it's perception and experience, and both of them, they kind of move and climb together. And you can read a book in 5th grade and you read it again in, as an adult, and you'll get a totally different set of facts from that. So it's consistently and constantly buttressing yourself and your belief system, because who you are is what you believe. So grow yourself. King Arthur, Knights of the Round Table, Merlin comes in and he's like, yo, you guys can find the Holy Grail. And the Holy Grail was one or two, or the Sorcerer's Stone. The Sorcerer's Stone was an elixir that can create, different things. And he said each knight has to enter the forest where it's darkest to them. That's how they had to enter it. And this is a concept of Inster Quellinus Invenator, which means in filth it will be found, where the things you most need to change about yourself are found in the places you least want to look.
I can't thank you enough, Roger. Please tell everybody where we can find you, follow you online, find your book.
Yes. My Instagram is the #1 Roger Pollard. I try and post something, motivational, deep. I get philosophical at times and theoretical, but just to put some positive energy out there and have somebody listen to something and think about something. And then I have a website, motiveinmotivation.com. And then on Amazon, all of my books are on Amazon. You can look me up as an author, Roger Pollard, Pollard. And that's it.
Excellent. And that'll all be in the show notes as well. Roger,
Okay.
Thank you so much for inspiring us all and giving us so much to think about.
Yes, ma'am. No problem. I think the primary freedom, that's why it's the freedom of speech. Freedom of speech is the freedom to think. I ask a question. If you're thinking about an answer, if you had the answer, why did you need to think about it? So you got to go back and forth. So 100%. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks so much for listening to Be the Good with Kate Chericello. Whether you're listening on YouTube or via podcast, it would mean the world if you liked, subscribed, and or left a review. You heard about the good? Now go out and be the good in your life this week. If you have stories of good news that need to be shared, please send me a message. Thanks again, and have a great week.